Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Robert Cisneros.
And I'm Simone Luca. President-elect Barack Obama is proposing a $500 million stimulus package to create more than 2.5 million jobs. During his weekend radio address to the country, Mr. Obama outlined a 2-year stimulus plan that includes tax cuts for lower and middle-class families worth up to $300 billion. Obama says if the government doesn't work to help the struggling economy, then the country could lose more jobs.
New home purchases in October were the lowest in half a century. Recently, more than 500,000 jobless claims were filed, the highest in 18 years. And if we do not act swiftly and boldly, most experts now believe that we could lose millions of jobs next year.
Obama plans on investing in environmentally friendly technologies and infrastructure projects. His new economic team will soon be led by Lawrence Summer, the former chief economist at World Bank and Treasury Secretary in the Clinton administration.
U.S. retail sales dropped a record 2.8% last month, and economists say this will be a bleak holiday season for retailers. Valley View's Desiree Reyes reports.
The colors red and green are hints that the holiday shopping season has begun. But the early Christmas decor is not as eye-catching as the many pre-holiday sales. And some eager shoppers are taking advantage.
You have to see the prices, and if I could find good discount prices, I'll get that now.
Even with the discounted prices, economists are still predicting a slow shopping season.
Holiday season tradition that's built in among most parts of our culture. So what we're talking about is probably a 2 or 3% drop, whereas we usually experience a 2 or 3% increase.
Despite the predictions, retailers are fighting back by offering huge discounts during their pre-holiday sales. But consumers are being cautious by using less credit and more cash. Even with the temptation of bargain prices, some shoppers say they are not willing to rely on their credit.
I don't put anything on credit cards. Credit cards are just an emergency for me.
Cash and debit's probably what I'd be paying for. A little bit of credit.
Cash and debit, I already messed up my credit.
If retail sales continue to drop, then we can expect to see more store closures and layoffs. In Northridge, Desiree Reyes, Valley View News.
Wall Street investors were encouraged by the government's decision to invest $20 billion in Citigroup and guarantee $306 billion in the firm's risky assets. Citigroup's stock price climbed 44% on Monday. The government's action was taken to prevent Citigroup from collapsing, triggering more problems in the nation's economy.
California's unemployment rate hit 8.2% last month, a 14-year high. Valley View News reporter Shanice Johnson has more on the story.
During this economic downfall, less and less people are walking through these doors, while more are starting to walk through these doors to find a job. Over 26,000 people were cut from California's payroll last month. More than 100,000 jobs have been lost in the past year, causing unemployment to be at its highest in 14 years.
I've been looking for a job for the last couple of months now and can't find a job anywhere.
Director of the San Fernando Valley Economic Research Center, Daniel Blake.
After the holiday season, they're going to lay off even more, and as people sort of retool their budgets for the next year, depending on the outlook, we aren't looking for a recovery very soon. We think this is going to be a longer, slower recovery than we've seen in the past.
Some department stores and other retailers have seen a huge drop in their sales.
Like I say, I'm self-employed as a state liquidator, and I just noticed the fact that the numbers of people who come out and how much money they have to spend is a lot less.
I'm stressed about how I'm going to send my kids to college.
Consumers are finding alternative ways to make and save more money for the holiday season. The recent layoffs have made it difficult for some people to plan for the future.
I have no idea what the next step is, which is the frightening part, because I don't know what the next step is. I don't know where this economy is going to take us. I don't know what my house value in Porter Ranch is going to be. I don't know what my savings account is going to be next year, what the value of it is, if any at all, there's going to be anything left of it. And I don't know what I'm going to be doing for a living either.
In Northridge, Shanice Johnson for Valley View News.
It's a tough job market for graduating seniors. Valley View's Jimmy Coe visited the CSUN Career Center and got some tips for seniors who will be looking for jobs.
The nationwide jobless rate is now at 6.5. Companies are continuing to announce cutbacks and layoffs. The bad news is making graduating seniors wonder where and how to get a job next year. The Career Center at Cal State Northridge has been tackling these questions with several seminars. Patricia Geiner is the director of the CSUN Career Center. She took the time to answer some questions such as what kinds of jobs are in demand.
Of course, the catchphrase right now is green. And that is definitely something that students today should be paying attention to.
Patricia also recommends jobs in the medical fields, financial sector, and even housing to help rebuild homes destroyed from the fire. One of the most important things that Patricia stressed to us was keeping an open dialogue with your peers. The Career Center has an alumni partnership as well as always hosting job fairs. So whenever you get a chance, come on down and visit the people here at the Career Center. Reporting from Cal State Northridge, this is Jimmy Coe, Valley View News.
About 1,000 students from different state universities in California gathered at UCLA to protest Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger's proposed 10% tuition increase and budget cuts. The governor says the action is needed to deal with an $11 billion state budget deficit. Students argue the proposal would result in lower enrollment and fewer student services. UC regents are also threatening to place limits on freshman enrollment next year if they don't receive enough state funding.
More and more college students are applying for financial aid due to the weakening economy. Nationwide applications for financial aid jumped 16% this fall compared to last year. Valley View's Jimmy Coe reports on how this trend is affecting Cal State Northridge.
At Cal State Northridge, 60% of students receive financial aid. This fall, more than 35,000 students applied for aid. That's a 23% increase from 2 years ago. During that same time, the number of applications awarded grew 9.5% to more than 20,000. That leaves about 15,000 students whose applications are still pending. Director of Financial Aid and Scholarships Lily Vidal says no cutbacks are planned.
Actually, the government, the federal government, has been putting more money into the Pell Grant program.
But Vidal says that could change next year.
I don't know what the state legislature will decide as far as the Cal Grant program for next year. Who knows how the federal government's going to be funding federal aid.
Vidal is optimistic the upcoming administration will not cut back spending.
It is a priority for the government, and especially with the Democratic control in the presidency and the Congress, and they usually are favorable to aid.
The bad news is tuition may be increasing for the CSUs next year. The good news, financial aid increases with the tuition. But that's still bad news for anyone who doesn't have financial aid. So that's why the financial aid department recommends that you come on in and you talk to one of their staff members there. Because financial aid is better than paying for a credit card loan or taking out a loan on your home during these tough times. Reporting on the campus of Cal State Northridge, this is Jimmy Coe for Valley View News.
The U.S. Court of Appeals is debating the release of 17 suspected terrorists held at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. A U.S. district judge ordered the release of the prisoners, but the Bush administration intervened, claiming the men were still enemy combatants. The 17 men say they fear being detained and tortured if released and arrested by another country. The D.C. District Court has agreed to temporarily stop the men's release so it can consider the federal government's decision on deporting the men. Coming up, we have an update on the fire aftermath.
And we'll give you the latest on the world of sports.